Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am AttiDude back in another video. In this video, we're going to be making a platformer game in Unity. If you haven't seen our last video, watch it now. In that video, I explained about the basics of Unity. Okay, so this was the project of our last video, except I added some sprites and also went and switch the platform. You can always go and switch the platform because I have already downloaded the Android module. I'll be able to switch the platform. So set this to be default device and this to Z4HC. Go to player settings. In here I wrote HP Game Studio product name to be platformer game and the default icon to be the QB. Also go in the icon, or if you don't attach them, it's okay, just okay. You can go to splash image, and instead of Unity logo, I had my own logo, which I added through here, like that. And had a sprite which I mentioned and which I attached, and the seconds, the logo duration in seconds to be 2. Okay, just because I'm using the pro version of Unity, I'll be able to disable the Unity logo, else you won't be able to disable that in the version of personal. Okay, so now in the publishing settings, we don't have to do anything, not at all, except set this to be Gradle. Okay, go back here. In here, now we'll make our scene. First, as we learned that, we'll set that resolution to be this Redmi Note 4. Okay, and also as you learned in the last video that if we want to set our 3D game to be 2D, we need to set the projection to be orthographic. So after setting that, we can just set the clipping planes to be 100, not more, because it will lag, it will cause lagging, and set the inspector mode also to be 2D. Okay, now we need to create a canvas. Not now, but we'll create a canvas. As you can see, I've gone ahead and created some of them. This platform is now here. We drag that and you see some weird things that the import settings fault in that. Maybe some bug or the compression. Because of that, I don't know why exactly that happens. Yes. Okay. Set the max size to be 64 if it is 16, and use crunch compression, hit apply, and now what we're going to do is we're going to scale that up. It's very small, very small. So 2 by 2 by 2. Maybe that's not enough, but first of all, go to main camera, set the alpha to be 255 and the color to be 3838. Yes, and in the skybox, set that to be solid color. Okay, so now we see our platform clearly. Set that to be 5 by 5 by 5. Seems perfect. And create a new game object. Name this environment. drag our platform inside that. Not now. Reset its position. Also reset this position, but set that to be 5 by 5 by 5 again because we reset. Go in here and create platforms like that, but make sure go to edit, go in snap settings and set the movement to be 0.5. This makes this easier a lot. Not the 0.5, but I think that maybe 1 would be easier. Set that to be 1. And now set that no. Don't mess up with this. 5, yes. Move right here. But I feel better with 0.25. Here, Control D and move it a little bit up. Leave some gap in between, and we're going to create a level like that. Somewhere upwards, somewhere downwards. And the blocks which I created this in Photoshop by placing 1, 2, 3, and 4 blocks. The texture that was of Minecraft grass block side, its name is, and basically I just combined 4 of them together to create this kind of platform. And we also select that to be background layer. I did this, I created a new sorting layer and make sure it is behind the default, just because it will be rendered back. Okay, so now the level seems fine. We need to create a cube. I'll provide the link of the project source files in the description, and also to mention that you can download any of these projects and feel free to download this project, and I'll also provide a link of the built application in the description so that you can get an idea of what it looks like after creation. Set these to be background, also to be background. Drag the QB up and remove the directional light. Oh, it is saying like, oh, there's no light in the scene, please give it a light, generate a light. But it's okay because we're not using any kind of light here. We are not using skybox, we're using solid color, so it's fine if you don't have light. Also close the lighting tab and go in and create a new button. But I'm going to remove the text and instead I'm going to create an image and set that button to be like 200 by 200. Reset its position and also make sure, I'm going to rename that, and also make sure that in the canvas scaler it is set to scale with screen size, and according to the screen size it is set to enable scaling. I'm going to rename this icon 200 by 200 and set its sprite to be the drop down arrow, but rotate it on the X, no, on the Y -1, or you can just rotate that 180 degrees on the Z. I feel better like I scale. Okay, this is jump button. I can just set like 150 by 150. Also make sure that in canvas it is set to screen space camera, the render mode, and drag the camera in here. You can just change that here, -800 by -400. Okay, so now I'm going to change this to be the knob, and now it's time to create sprite. It's time to create some scripts. First, organizing. Organizing can help you from being like lost around in the scripts. You can go to scripts, create a new C# script. I'm going to name this like player movement. Why doesn't this go? Yeah. Okay, open that up in Visual Studio. I'm using Visual Studio 2019. You can use any, but just make sure that Unity plugin is installed. I'm commenting many times because I feel like commenting makes it organize the project, and it makes it easier to identify what function does the part of the script does. So in here we are going to create some variables. Type of float. First of all, as we are working with rigid body, 2D, maybe name this player controller more accurately. Okay, here we are with our variables. Go in here in the editor. Make sure that the QB or the player has a box collider 2D and also a rigid body 2D. In the rigid body 2D, set freeze rotation in constraint to be turned on. Freeze rotation Z. Okay, set. I'm going to leave all these values default and also add in this component. Your move speed to be currently 0 and set the jump force to be like 10,000 because we're going to apply time.smooth delta time, which will smooth everything up, which will also lead us to set the speed or the force to be more. Okay, so now I'm going to script in the update function. We're going to be moving our player on the right side by default. Means the player is not going to control that speed. We can write this by player controller dot add force, and the force, the direction to be vector2 dot right into move speed. Okay, and we create a separate function for jump, which will call from the button. And make sure that the function is set to public so that we can access that from the editor. And now in here we can write that player controller dot add force. We need to add force upwards, so it is vector2 dot up into jump force into time dot smooth delta time. Also in here we'll write that what time dot smooth delta time will do is smoothing out our movement. I'll explain that in a later video, but for now just leave it like this. If you don't understand any of the code, just copy that for now and write it in the comments on what topic or the topic which you didn't understand in here, and on that topic I'll make a video later. Okay, we see no errors in the console. That means our script is perfect. QB and set that perfectly, but maybe that should be a little more. Going to jump, hit plus, and this event has to be called whenever the button is pressed. Just maximize on play, hit play. Whenever we press the button, we can see that the player bounces, but as you can see that the force is too less. Set that to be 50,000. Yeah, seems to be perfect. But we also need to check that if the player is on ground, then only we should be able to move. Then we should be able to jump. Create an empty game object in here inside of player and drag that all the way to its bottom. This object is going to be the ground check, which will check if it touches the ground. So go to the script. We need a few more variables. We need kind of the ground distance. What will be the distance from the ground? We need a transform that will be our ground check. We also need a layer mask. Write this here, layer mask. And we need this ground layer. And in here we check that if we are on the ground, then and then only we should be able to jump. We also need a bool. As we saw in Java that we need to write boolean full spelling, but in C# we don't need to write that. We just write bool in small letters. That's it. I'm going to name this on ground, and if we are on ground, then only we should be able to jump. And how do we define on ground? How do we check that we're on ground? So here's how. On ground equals to physics 2D dot lap circle, and in here we can write vector2 point that is going to be the ground check dot position, the radius to be ground distance, the layer mask is going to be the ground layer. Okay, so here's how we check. This will cast a circle. This will cast a circle like ground distance to be 0.1 or something like that. And when we hit play, we can see nothing works because we haven't assigned any of them. Just assign them, and in here we can just make a new layer for the environment layer. Add a layer, and here we can write ground and set this to be ground. Yes, I want to change that for all the children, not for UI but for ground. Okay, QB, you can set that to be ground and leave these all values at default. Now you can see that whenever we are in ground, then and then only we will be able to jump, not anywhere else. Okay, so now it's time for the player to move in the horizontal direction, and it is pretty simple. Set this move speed to be a little, like 100, not very little, but it would be sometimes not working because the value is too low, and we'll not be able to see anywhere there just because our camera is not following our player. And now create a script for following our player. But instead of creating a script, you can just make main camera a child of QB. Name this player camera. Yes, and hit play. Now we can see that this doesn't work because we also need to set QB check that it's in radius of some block, and then it works. But we need to make the player, the QB, a little bit smaller. So it falls down, or else it will never fall down. And set the camera's Y to be 0 and Z to be -10. But also in the scale, you can set that to be 1 by 1 by 1. That doesn't matter. And we also see that the speed is a little bit more. Set that to be 500. And it doesn't even bounce much that it will climb up the platform. We can set double that value. Oh man, it is too much. No, this is still too much. We can set that to be 62500. That seems to be perfect, but this speed is even too much. No, it fell. The speed is too low. We can set that to 375 between 250 and 500. And over the time, speed increases. And we can also see that it just crashes on that and we cannot move ahead. Let's just set that to 250. And this is what it happens there. 375. And now it seems to be perfect. Oh no. But we see about that it crashes onto the platforms. We can just solve that by moving these platforms a little bit downwards. Even here. But that's no problem if we just fall down. The speed is a little too low, but as you can see, the speed increases all the time. We don't want that. We want our speed to be constant. I'm not going to maximize on play and select the QB and set. No, it's okay. You see the move speed? It should not increase. Sometimes it jumps very much, sometimes it jumps medium. You can set this to be just delta time, not time.delta time. And we can also see that the jump force is too much. We can increase the gravity scale. This seems to be perfect, but not much perfect. But also make sure that your stats is on and maximize that. You can see these are the FPS. When the FPS are too much, it will move fast. When the FPS are less, it will move slow. You can just remove this, even this, and decrease these values. Set this to 100. This to remove 2 zeros from the back. Oh, you can still see that the force is too much, 0.1. Okay, it's too less. Set that to be 10. You can play around with these values and set any value to be default ones. And okay, the move speed is okay, but the jump speed is too much. Jump force is too much. What we can do is decrease the gravity scale to just 1. And still the force is very low. Increase that, try to increase that as much as you want. And here is our game. Finally, we can just go to File, build settings and hit build. I'm going to save this where I made a folder where I store my built games. I'm going to name this platformer game. Hit save. It is going to detect the SDK, NDK, and JDK. You can download that if you have downloaded directly from the Unity Hub. If you haven't downloaded directly, then in the setup it would not ask for anything. You just don't need to download directly the editor. You can also download using an installer, in which it will ask of different Android setup, different components of NDK, JDK, SDK, and it will ask that. Okay, so now here we can see that our game has been completed. So let me install my device. Let me just plug in my device and see if it works on Android. The phone I'm using here is Redmi Note 4. You can use any with the screen resolution to be 1920 by 1080. Okay, so now just Control C and search for Unity games. I made a folder. Here it is, and paste that. Here it is, of just 16 MBs. Let me test that on my phone. First you need to install. Go to File Manager, and in the APKs you will see the platformer game, and hit install. It will take some time to install, but as you can see that the size of the game is just in a link in the description of the download. Okay, after security check, I've opened that, and here it is. It would be better if we would have increased the speed. So what we're going to do is go to Unity, and then in the QB you can increase the speed of movement to be 3. And now what we are going to do is File, Build Settings, go to Player Settings, and you can just change the version. I'm changing. It's upon you what you change or what you don't change, but I'm going to also set that to be development build, because it is in development, it has not been released. It will take some time to build, but wait, I also want to fix a bug. Set the jump button to be at 800, not at -800. Then go to build settings and build the project, and it will again take some time, a lot of time, not just some, but it will pack all of these assets in an application in very compressed format, and that would be easier. And also, if you not have noticed, I have set the images to the lowest resolution. Let's copy that again. Folder, paste that, copy and replace, and in here, whenever you just install the new version of game, you need to uninstall the first one. Go to File Manager and APK, and you'll find the platformer game. This time, this is of 26 MB. I don't know why, but the size just changed. Okay, so after installation, if we go ahead and play, it works fine, pretty fine. And I would like to end this video here. If you want to download the project or the application, I'll provide link in the description. If you haven't liked, share, subscribe my channel yet, do it now. I'll provide more content like this. Finally, I am AttiDude signing out.